Hi ladies, in this video we're going to go through 4B, which covers simple interest. So with interest, there's basically just two types. There's simple interest and compound interest. The main difference between the two is simple interest remains the same. So we usually have simple interest calculated on your principal amount, your initial amount, whereas compound interest compounds every period. So you basically get interest on your interest. So we're looking at compound interest later, but in 4B, we're just looking at simple interest. So the definition here, and I'll just read it to you. Simple interest is paid on an investment or loan on the basis of the original amount invested or borrowed, called the principal. So remember, principal is just your initial amount. The amount of simple interest is constant from year to year. So that's important to remember. It is the same every year. So I might just highlight that. It's constant. It doesn't change. To calculate simple interest, we need to know three things. And these three things are used in our formula. So we need to know the principal, so the initial amount, the interest rate, which is usually it's a percentage per annum, and the length of time the money is invested. So in your simple interest formula, we have P, the interest rate, R, and T for time. So if I just scroll down, here is the simple interest formula written in words, which is quite long, but if you're ever unsure about what PRT means, so amount invested or borrowed. Okay, so remember that is your principal. The interest rate, and then the length of time. So basically what we have here is PRT. And if you look in the box, that's simplified to this. So your interest, or your total interest, P times R times T over 100. And this little box here probably explains a bit better than this longer formula above. So always refer to this because it does also say in this box what PRT refers to. So as long as you can identify the principal, the interest rate, and the time period, you should be fine to calculate the total interest. Now, when graphing simple interest, because it's the same amount each year, it goes up in a straight line. Okay, whereas compound interest doesn't go in a straight line. So I've put the graph in here just to show you the main, what it looks like graphically. And when we do compound interest, you can compare. So compound interest would go up kind of like that because you're increasing it each time. Okay, and that's just an example for you. In your textbook, there are CAS calculator instructions. I'm going to do a question with the CAS calculator in this video, but if you want a copy of the CAS calculator instructions, you can easily just copy and paste them yourself. Okay, so question 1. Calculate the amount of interest earned from each of the following simple interest investments. Give answers to the nearest cent. Oh, excuse me. So remember your formula, total interest equals principal times interest rate times time over 100. Now, for this topic, most questions have a formula related to it. So you need to have these in your bound reference. So if you don't have the formulas already, so when you did 4A, the notes I gave you had all the formulas in there. So it's just a matter of knowing which formula to use. So here we're looking at simple interest. So the simple interest formula does differ to compound interest. So this is for simple interest. And we are calculating the amount of interest earned. But you can rearrange this equation if you need to. So if you were given the total amount of interest and you had to calculate the principal, for example, you can just put everything in, substitute everything in, and you solve on your calculator. All right, so let's go through. We won't do all of these. You can obviously pause the video and finish them off. When you're doing it, just identify everything. So P is 400, your interest rate is 5, and your time is 4 years. Okay, so you can write the formula. I always think it's a good idea to write the formula just so it sticks in your mind a little bit easier. Equals, and the more working you do, when you make a mistake, you can see where you went wrong. Okay, so we have 400 times 5 times 4. I'm just going to quickly do that on my own little calculator in front of me. So that's 80. So the total interest earned is $80. So basically you get 5% interest every year. So 5% of 400 is $20. And then you multiply that by 4, that's where the 80 comes from. So each year you're getting $20 interest. So after 4 years, you've got $80. So it's not complicated compared to compound interest because the interest rate just stays the same each year. All right, I might just do one more. Okay, let's have a look at doing I. We'll do the last one. And you can go ahead and do every single one in between. Okay, so P equals 15,000. Your interest rate is 33.3. That's a very high interest rate. And your time is 1.25. So it doesn't matter what the values are, even though you've got decimals there, we just still write them as they are. So I equals PRT over 100. Just scroll down a little bit, just substitute everything in. And divide that by 100. So I'm just doing it on my calculator. Times 33.3 times 1.25 divided by 100. Okay, so a lot of interest for this one because the interest rate is quite high. So you can see 33.3% is quite high. So this probably wouldn't be an investment. 6.2, let me just write there. Let me just see the question. Oh, they are investments. Well, if you got an interest rate of 33.3%, that's pretty good. Most investments, if you were just to put money in the bank, I think you get about 2% interest. It's very low at the moment. So yeah, investing just in the bank is not very profitable. Okay, let's move on before I keep waffling on about investing money in the bank. All right, exploring the growth of interest in a simple interest loan or investment. So a loan of $900 is taken out at a simple interest rate of 16.5% per annum. Use your CAS calculator to construct a graph of simple interest owed against time in years for the next 10 years. Okay, so I'm just going to pull out the important information. I might just write it over here. So our principal is 900. The interest rate is 16.5%. I don't need to write the percent. And the time we're going to do from 1 to 10. Okay, so the interest owed against time for the next 10 years. And then question B, use a table of values to determine the amount of interest owed after 5 years. All right, so I might just pause this while I get my calculator open. Okay, so we're just going, oops, wrong button. We're just going to insert let's go to new, list and spreadsheets. Okay, so in this, we're going to call this time. Okay, so we're doing time, because we're graphing it, we're doing it for 10 years. Now, in this second column, we're going to have the interest. And basically we're going to tell the calculator what we want it to do. So what we're going to do is actually put in the interest formula. So remember, interest equals PRT over 100. So we've got 900 times 16.5. T, I've called it time on my calculator, so I'm just going to, in the calculator, I'm going to have to continue with time, not use T, over 100. So you're basically putting in a formula in your calculator. So 900 times 16.5 times time, and you'll notice when I write time, it goes bold, and that's because it's a variable set in the calculator. And there you go. So it's calculated all the interest for each year. And you can see it's basically just $148.50 each year. Okay, so that's adding up. I'm going up by $148.50 each year. Now, if we wanted to graph it, just Control Add Page, the same as what you did when you did a scatter plot. Just making sure that clicking the right thing. So times your X and interest is your Y. And there you can see your straight line. Okay, so that's simple interest because it follows a straight line. It goes up, I think it was 148.5 each time. That's your gradient. Okay, so question B, if I just go back, use a table of values to determine the amount of interest owed after 5 years. So the amount of interest, if we go back to my table of values, we're just adding up. See how it's accumulating 148. So after 5 years, the amount of interest is $742.50. I'll write that down. Okay, so you still have the $900 loan, but that's the amount of interest you would be paying. So if you're about to buy a car, some people take a loan for a car, you're actually paying a lot more for your car than, you know, if you bought it for $5,000. You got it, if you take out a loan, your car could end up costing you maybe $10,000 after you've paid all the interest. It's the same with a house. You could, most people borrow money for a house. So if you borrowed $500,000 for a house, you could end up paying the same amount in interest. So it's always a good idea, if you do borrow money, to pay off the loan as soon as possible. You'd also get this amount if you use the PRT formula. Okay. All right, so question 3 is another graph. I might just leave that one because it's exactly the same. I was going to do 2 questions, but I just want to keep this video short. All right, calculating the amount of simple interest loan or investment. A simple interest loan or investment. So basically, this is what it would be in total. So when I was talking about this previous question, the amount of the loan is the initial $900 plus the $742.50. So you have to pay back the loan, the $900, but also the amount of interest that has accrued. So when we are looking at the formula for that, you do need to use the simple interest formula to calculate your interest, and then you just add that to your principal. So your interest is calculated by PRT over 100. And I've put it in an example here for you. So you can see in step 1, they've calculated the interest first and then applied it to the formula. So A being the amount, the total amount or the value of the loan or the investment, equals your principal plus your interest. So A equals P plus I. So for this example 11, we've got a loan of $16,000 at 8% per annum. And so how much is it after 2 years? So after 2 years, the interest is $2,560. So the amount owing is that interest, $2,560 plus the initial $16,000. So you can see, how things can easily get more expensive. So a car, you might think, oh, that brand new Volkswagen Golf looks great. I'll get a loan for that. So a $30,000 car could probably, if you got a loan for that amount, could end up costing you about $45,000. So just be aware of that in the future. So don't think things are always a bargain, especially if you're taking a loan out to pay for them. All right, so question 4. This is where we're going to calculate the total amount for each of these simple interest loans. Okay, so we're going to use the formula. The total amount equals the principal plus the interest, where the interest, actually I might do my eyes like this, where the interest is equal to the principal times the rate times time over 100. So you need to calculate the interest first and then add it to your principal. Okay, so for question A, the principal is 500, your interest rate is 5%, and your time is 4. All right, so your interest is PRT over 100. Did we do this one before? Is this exactly the same? I can't remember. 500 times 5 times 4. Actually, I don't think it is. I think we had 400. Okay, so we'll just quickly do that on my calculator. So that's $100. So it's $100 in interest. So your total amount, okay, is your principal plus the interest. So we worked out the interest to be 100. So the principal is 500. So 500 plus 100. So the total amount is $600. All right, let's do one more. I'll do E, and then you can do all the ones in between. So the principal equals 2,400. Your interest rate is 12, and the time is 18. All right, so the interest, PRT over 100. So I don't know whether you can hear that bird. I've got some nice sounding birds outside where I live, where the trees are. All right, 12 times 18 divided by 100. So 5184. Just wonder if I wrote all that correctly. That's quite high. So that's the amount of interest. Yeah, that looks right. 12 times 18. Cool. Quite a high interest rate, but we're also doing it for 18 time periods. Okay, so the amount owing is 2,005. Oh, the principal, I should have probably written the formula, 2,400 plus your interest. So we can just do that on the calculator. Actually, I should be able to do that without the calculator. So $7,584. All right, so guys, I didn't set every question in 4B. So just doing questions 1 to 8 in 4B. All right, bye girls.